Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Estate is Ending Real Estate World Report with Javier Vidana here talking about the Delta variant and how it's affecting the housing market. A few people reach out to me, ask me about this, and to me at first, hello, is this Javier? Yeah, the housing market's crashing. I'm just trying to lie to people on YouTube. Yeah, I'm working for the cash buyers. Yes, cash buyers. Yes, sorry, bye. But as I was saying, I'm going to talk about the Delta variant. At first, I was getting a message about this, and people always look out for like these little things that are like inconsequential that they think is going to affect things, and they're just like waiting for some kind of thing to tip the market in their favor. But the reality is, if everybody's looking for the thing to tip it, then what's going to happen is if there is actually something that tips it, then everybody jumps in on it, and it's not really, going to factor anything. But at first, I thought I was something like that. But, there's enough people reaching out to me where I'm actually going to talk about the consequences and what I think is going to happen because of this. So let's just get to the point. Why do YouTubers always take so long to start? You just get to a freaking point. So first, let's go over what happened in 2020, the boom of 2020, if you will. Okay. I believe here's the three things that mainly caused things to go to heck. And I want to kind of compare it to what's happening now so you guys can see what I think was going to happen. And maybe you can make up your own conclusions and leave a comment below. Number one of the things that caused the boom of 2020, there was a genuine fear of the virus. Like a lot of people thought we weren't going to make it. There was not a lot of information out there. The testing was so rare and the signs of a vaccine were really far away. So everybody was just in absolutely genuine fear mode. And I mean genuine fear, not just like kind of scared. At least my family and I bunkered down. I know a lot of families that bunkered down, and we really thought this was going to be like a world-ending catastrophe, if I can say that. We have to factor that in. There was that genuine fear that for at least, I want to say for a good 1 to 3 months, knocked a lot of buyers out of even buying a house. What it did for sellers, at least for the next 6 to 12 months, it kind of made them think twice about selling their house, which led to the inventory issue coming up, which we'll talk about right now. The second thing leading to the boom of 2020 was the interest rates were dirt cheap. Like I remember interest rates dropping to like mid twos, low twos at some point. And everybody and their mama was refinancing because interest rates were so freaking cheap. Eventually, once people started getting over that fear, 1 or 3 months happened, people were like, well, holy crap, if I buy a house right now and the interest rate's like a point cheaper than what it was a year ago, I can afford, $40,000 to $50,000 more than I did last year. Like really think about that. If someone only qualified for $300,000 2019 and they didn't buy, well now because the interest rates were so cheap in 2020, they could qualify at $360,000, $380,000, but their payment was exactly the same as it was before. Insanity, but people took advantage of that, and that kind of started to factor things in. And the third thing to really start the fire was the migration happening. Let's not lie. There was a lot of people that started working from home, and a lot of people lived in more expensive states, not just looking at California. There's a lot of states out there where there's a lot of great jobs that are really well paid, but living there sucks. So people started thinking, well, why am I even here? What's the point of being here if I'm working from home? So I'm going to say tens of thousands of people had the same idea. And now keep in mind, in like a healthy market like Phoenix, Arizona, which we have a huge population, in a normal market, but like in 2019, 2018, there was maybe like 10,000 to 12,000, maybe even 15,000 sales a month. Okay. So even if there's like, let's say 3,000 people, 2,000 people that move into the city at 1 month, which is a very low number if you really think about the population of California. Let's just say even 2,000 people move here. That's already like 10 to 20% of the average sales. Now, imagine if there was like 5,000 or even 6,000 people moving at a given time every month. That's almost half. So, of course, we have this effect, and we also have people not wanting to sell their house, and this caused a perfect storm of low inventory and an incredible amount of demand. There would have been an issue even if there was any mass migration of people not wanting to sell, but it was just kind of kickstarted with people moving in. So now that we understand what exactly happened in layman terms, let's talk about what's different in this situation. Unfortunately, number one, compared to people having that genuine fear, let's just be honest here. Wearing masks and having a fear of this virus has become a political issue in our country. And in this country, whenever something's a political issue, then, well, there's always going to be a divide. That genuine fear of the virus, whether you agree or do not agree with it, is not present this time. People gladly are not wearing their mask right now, even though there's all this new news about this Delta variant and how much it's affecting people. People are still going out and eating, and they're still gladly not wearing their mask. The genuine fear isn't there. Maybe even if there's a small percentage of the population, or even half percentage of the population that's taking it serious, the other 50% might not. And because of that, especially in different states and whatnot, I just don't see it being much of a factor as the initial time. Now, the second second thing with interest rates being dirt cheap, they're not dirt cheap anymore. They're still really affordable. Like I'm seeing them in the low threes, maybe high twos if you're superb, but maybe low threes, mid threes. So they've stayed there for the last few months and they're pretty consistently there. Now, once again, I'm not talking bad about that number. That is a great number, but compared to last year when they were like low twos, mid twos, it does seem like it's a lot higher. So what I'm saying is the interest rate isn't enough to really create much of a storm of people saying, you know what, I should take advantage of this. That person that could qualify for 300,000, that qualified for 360 during the 2020, now qualifies only for 300, which unfortunately doesn't help them because the market, the leftovers of the insanity is still present in the market. And because of that, they kind of needed that extra 60,000 now, because now at 300, houses have become, you know, they've raised in 10, 20% in some areas. So they needed to have that boost, right? So, and of course, the third thing being that mass migration. I mean, there's still people moving out. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that people stop moving out. What I'm saying is that initial boost of migration is done. Right now, what I feel is happening is it's that secondary effect of, you know, people always say there's a group of people that are like the guinea pigs and they move out of state and they have cousins and aunts and uncles and parents that are watching them and saying, let's see how, you know, Billy does. Let's see how Billy and Jane do. Do you guys know anyone named Billy and Jane? I don't even know anyone that's... Anyways, so Billy and Jane go out there, right? And if Billy and Jane end up being really happy and they go and report back to the family
saying, hey guys, it's actually pretty great out here. You should come out here.
Then that's where people start moving out. So I'm not seeing a huge amount of people saying,
you know what, I'm getting out of this state. I work out at home now.
No, now I'm seeing the people that are like, you know, relatives of those folks, or perhaps folks that maybe couldn't afford to move last year and they've been saving. So it's still happening, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's that much of an impact now. What is the Delta variant going to do for the housing market? I think demand was already dropping for the housing market. I don't think this virus is really going to increase. It might dissuade a few folks from moving forward, but most people, like including my wife and I have always been very safe. We've always worn our mask every year out. I've told you guys about our daughter who has issues with seizures. Even now, we still go out, but we just wear our mask, right? So it's not preventing us from living our lives. We're just not as serious as we were initially when we were just staying home for 3 to 6 months in quarantine. Now people are still going out. They can still look at houses. They're just wearing masks. So to think that this virus is going to, you know, be the boom of the market is just not, you know, kind of maybe reaching a bit. I think there's more serious conversation to have, like, for example, demand is dropping 100%. I don't care who you are or what you say or what market you're in. There's more inventory now and demand is dropping. And demand is largely dropping because buyers are fed up. They've either tried or they're hearing of people try. They don't even want to put themselves out there that need a lot of money. It's still hard to buy. It's still going to be difficult. But what's happening now is the nicer homes are the ones that are like crazy situations, but the average homes are still competitive, but you don't have to waive your appraisal 50,000 over anymore. You're still going to be competing against cash offers, but you still have to be competitive in your offer. You still might have to be offering 20, 30 more, and that's just a reality. Just because it's like not a 9 or 10 or more, it's still 7 or 8, and it's still difficult. So it's still difficult to buy, and people are feeling that, and they're backing out. They're not wanting to move forward. We should be talking about what's causing this. What do we need to do to kind of ease the pain of not necessarily the extremely well qualified and will save people, but how can we start letting the people that maybe have enough of the down payment and closing costs and a little bit of savings, but they don't have an extra 20 or 30,000? What do we have to do to get those folks in there? Well, there's two things. We need more inventory, or we need the perception to change. Sorry to toot my own horn here, but I mean, there is a situation happening with cash buyers right now. I think there's a huge play by these larger companies to start making the American people more into renters and homeowners. And as long as there's still properties being bought, I mean, I don't care if cash buyers are out there, but if they're still being bought $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 above list price, cashed, and completely nullifying any efforts for any buyers to get the house, and that's still happening even at 10 or 20% of the market, it's still going to continue to infect the minds of sellers, and they're going to still want to expect higher numbers. It's also going to continue to affect the perception of buyers of that it's still crazy out there, and it's going to dissuade people from even entering the market, and B, it's going to make the buyers who are buying feel the need to have to do crazy things. The second thing we need to be talking about is the forbearance thing. Yes, I've always said not to worry about it. I've always said sellers have a lot of equity. I've always said that there's so many people waiting to buy that when these people, if they have to sell their house, they have enough equity that they're going to, you know, be able to supply it. But that's the problem in itself. The demand is dropping. Even right now, we have a lot of people in forbearance, and even though those numbers are dropping, the question still lies: what's going to happen when they need to pay the piper? I personally think that banks have systems in place to help people catch up on their payments. I'm not too necessarily worried about that. But even if, let's say there is a small percentage of those folks that are for brands that do want to sell, it is enough to sway things to bring more inventory that might not be found by that demand. So in conclusion, is it going to affect the housing market? The effects of what happened in 2020 that are still being felt today are much more impactful than a new variant. The new variant can affect things and it can maybe amplify things, but I think what's happened in 2020 is still prevalent and it could affect things even further. So I don't mean to downplay the seriousness of this. I think this variant is very serious, but specifically talking about the housing market, it's not going to be the bomb that sets everything off, I think. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And of course, make sure to subscribe and like if you have, I don't know. I don't feel like shilling myself today.